agencies. So let me just start by asking you a question. Please answer it honestly to yourself. Are you actually financially free? By the way, it's got nothing to do with how much money you have. Are you actually free? Or are you actually just surviving? Because if one headline, one politician, one interest rate change, or one paycheck can shake up your life, then freedom isn't what you have. Freedom is what you're missing. I've got some trending videos here I'd like to share with you this afternoon. I'll be responding to it. So get your popcorn ready, get your notes ready, share this video. Let's get started in 3, 2, 1, let's go.
Who are we? Hey, 7 figures squad. Where we go? Run it up, run it up.
All right, what's cracking, everybody? Your money smart guy, Matt Sapaula here, hailing to you from Dallas, Texas, and welcome to the first episode of 2026 Millionaire Responds. And just a reminder, this YouTube channel, my YouTube channel, 7 Figure Squad, is a channel for people who want control. Control over their money, control over their decisions, and control over their future. The only thing controlling them is a big man upstairs under God's authority. And so today, we're going to watch a few viral clips. I have an article here I'd like to review too as well with you that are trending right now. Not to react emotionally, not to argue politics, but to slow down life just a second and show you what they actually mean, these videos, what they actually mean for your money, your family, your future. But before we go any further, please drop in the comments right now where you're from, what city, what state you're hailing from, city and state where you're hailing from. And if that's you and you want control in your life, if you believe freedom is built, not given, put your city, your state, and put the word control in the comment section below. If you're watching this replay, put it in the comments section below and make sure you hit that like button so this reaches people who need clarity, that want more control over life, not more noise. And make sure you subscribe to the 7 Figure Squad YouTube channel. Make sure you smash that like button, you smash that subscribe button. All right, let's get into it. Now, this first reel that we're going to respond to is based on my premise of this conversation. How free are the poor? How free are those that have checks coming in? Because we have a lot of social programs in America, but the question in this video is, how free are the poor? This young college student is asking this economist named Milton Friedman. And so when we take a look at this, some people hear judgment, some people hear misalignment. Let's take a look at this. Milton Friedman answers, how free are the poor? Let's take a look at this. Oops.
Employed, and how free are those people who are disadvantaged? Right. What is government's role?
First of all, the government doesn't have any responsibility. People have responsibility. This building doesn't have responsibility. You and I have responsibility. People have responsibility. So far as poverty is concerned, there has never in history been a more effective machine for eliminating poverty than the free enterprise system and the free market. The period in which you had the greatest improvement in the lot of the ordinary man was the period of the 19th and early 20th century. Those of us in this room are the heirs of that. If you look at the real problems of poverty and denial of freedom to people in this country, almost every single one of them is a result of government action. Let me be precise and specific. We have constructed a governmental welfare scheme which has been a machine for producing poor people. We have induced people to come under control of welfare. I'm not blaming the people, don't misunderstand me. It's our fault for constructing so perverse and so ill-shaped a monster as the whole set of welfare programs we have, under which we encourage families to break up. We encourage people to move from one part of the country and come to another, under which we have, in effect, made many people poor. And yet, when all this is said and done, have I ever been where?
Welfare or poor.
Of course. Of course, more so than most of the people in this room.
Damn. Hello.
But you know, that's all irrelevant. Is there one of you who is going to say that you don't want a doctor to treat you for cancer unless he himself has had cancer? But when all is said and done, while there are people in this country who are worse off than other people, by and large, even the poorest people in this country are relatively well off compared to the conditions in many other countries in the world. What we take as our standard of poverty is above the average income of all of the people in the Soviet Union. Now, that doesn't mean we should be satisfied with it. We are a wealthier country and we've been more productive. And we should set higher standards by ourselves. But by the same token, we ought to have a sense of proportion. And we ought to recognize both the source and the problem.
Yep. Yeah, listen, this reminds me so much of Charlie Kirk. You know, you have this conversation today on college campuses, as you just saw Milton Friedman there have at a college campus, and he's getting shot, and Charlie's getting shotted out of the campus. But this makes people uncomfortable because it shifts the responsibility from themselves and shifts away from, well, this conversation here, the public social system shifts responsibility from self onto the government. But this reel here shifts away from systems and back onto the people. Now, it's not to blame people. It's about responsibility. So here's how I like to reframe this conversation, because freedom is not the absence of help. Freedom is a presence of options, and options don't come from, hey, good job, good job, good job, from applause lines. Freedom comes from you expanding your skills. Freedom comes from building upon a structure, a format, using a formula. Freedom comes from having ownership. Talking about ownership here and a couple other reels we got going on. And freedom most definitely comes from discipline. Now, the Bible puts it plainly in Thessalonians chapter 3, verse 10. It says that if anyone is not willing to work, let him not eat. See, that verse isn't cruel. That verse is clarifying. Free enterprise rewards value creation. If you're creating value, the marketplace is going to reward you. But dependency systems like poverty, by the way, I've been through it. I've been through child support court. I've been through family court. I've been through WIC lines. I've been through bankruptcy courts. I've been very, very tempted to be dependent on government systems, on VA. And by the way, I've got VA opportunities right now to get my 100% disability. And I'm not going to find myself standing in line for 6 months waiting for me to play or act in front of a doctor. That's how they coach you, by the way. Hey, you got to, what do they say? You got to be showing to the doctor like your worst day. So you kind of got to play around it. I'm not an actor, man. And so I've let other Marines, I let other service members take my spot in line because I bet on me. And quite frankly, I haven't needed the VA check. I could make another $3, $4, $5 grand extra a month. I can have my house here with no property tax on it. But praise God, God's given me a business and I manifested a business. I put my time and energy into this. Now, of course, I'm going to take advantage of my benefits. Of course, I want my house with no property tax. But it's not like I depend on it. Because God has allowed me to expand my capacity. When you expand your capacity, the other stabilizes survival. And if all you ever do is survive, paycheck to paycheck, stabilize, survival, just keep your head above what, boom, paycheck goes by, you're underwater again. Another paycheck, heads above water, underwater again. If all you ever do is stabilize survival, you actually never, ever, ever become free. Your choice here in 2026, what do you want to be? What do you want to become? I pray that it's freedom, but you got to take control. This next episode, or this next reel I want to watch is before we watch this, I want to make sure y'all don't get triggered here, okay? I want to make sure we set this up right. Renting is not failure. People often ask me, I think, my Keep the Keys book tour. Man, it's cheaper for me to rent, right? And I'm like, okay, we'll rent. And people think they're a failure renting. No, it's okay. If you're wrong, by the way, there's no right or wrong answer. It's based on your set of circumstances. I rented for a while. Renting in itself is not failure. Drifting and renting what strategy is. And some of you are renting because you're strategic, like my wife and I were, like I was when I was a single father. And some of you are renting because you're stuck. Those are not the same. Let's watch this clip.
Ever rent a house again?
Because I've been doing this too long and I know what happens to you if you put tenants in houses, okay? I put tenant buyers in houses, not tenants. We put them in there with no less than a 5% non-refundable deposit. They are responsible for all repairs after the first 30 days. And now I got people that have a dog in the hunt and they take care of the house. And, you know, most of them don't actually buy. I give them a couple of years, and I'll give them as long as they want, to tell you the truth. But if they got to go get their credit cleaned up or whatever, stopping them from getting a loan while they're living in the house and acting like they own it, because they do have an option to buy it. Good news or bad news is most of them won't buy. Now, if you're like me, and you're doing it for the long term, and you want to get filthy, stinking rich owning houses that we bought using no credit and little or no money, then you can buy as many of these as you like, because I do not guarantee debt. I don't want you to do it either. So anyway, I don't mind tenant buyers. I've done all I'm going to do with straight tenants, because they don't have a dog in the hunt, and it's two totally breeds of human beings, if you ask me. Besides, I like to see people get into a house that can't get in there any other way because they don't qualify for a loan and they know it. I'll give them plenty of time to qualify for the loan while they're paying me rent. And I've had some tenants been in houses 10 years and never bought and paid off my houses while they were in them. And that's the kind of business you'd want to build if you're going to do a rental business. I won't apply to apartments, but it definitely applies to single family houses. And then think about this, all the benefits. Big old deposit coming in, there's a building equity in the property, your debt is paying down, your price of the house is going up, you get tax deductions because you own the house. Next thing you know, you got a golden goose. And when I show you how you can do that and not pay income taxes while you're doing it, that'll ought to light you up.
Why won't you ever?
I love it. I love it. I absolutely love this. Now, people hear this and they think, well, I'm behind. You know, this clip triggers people because of one word. He's showing people about ownership. And people think right now in a rental community, when rates are high, they think I'm behind. I missed my window. I should already be much further ahead than what I am today. Listen, folks, that mindset is poison. Now, this clip, this reel that we're watching together, this isn't about getting rich. This is about incentives. This landlord / helping you get to become an owner, he's incentivizing his tenants to eventually own things. Why? Because people protect what they feel ownership over. That's why people work at Microsoft to get stock options. That's why we busted our tail here at PHP Agency to get stock of our company. Because in this scenario, tenant buyers, remember, it's just not a tenant. Tenant's just paying rent. If something goes wrong, hey, landlord, fix my toilet, fix my roof. No, he creates tenant buyers. That's what I was when I bought my first home in early 2000s. A tenant buyer would treat their home differently than just tenants, right? Same reason why employees act differently than owners of a company. Spenders behave differently than stewards. When I started getting this, I started making a bunch of money. We're across multiple six figures. And I go, for example, I go to Dick's Sporting Goods and I want to get some joggers. I get some new Under Armour gear. And it was $80. I'm like, damn, $80 for a set of freaking joggers, Under Armour? Guys, I got multiple six figures in my bank account. My wife and I are already cash flow millionaires, and I'm processing an $80 purchase. Why? Because I'm a steward now. I'm processing this. Is it a need or is it a want? Can I make do with what I've had already? Even though I have the financial resource to buy this right now. And the Bible says this in Matthew 6, verse 21. Where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. You see, ownership is less about a deed. Ownership is more about intentional positioning. I love how he's positioning his tenants to eventually own something. And look what he just said. My tenants fix the property. My tenants fix the HVAC. My tenants fix everything because I'm giving them potential equity inside the house. And what a great relationship he's creating with his tenants and what he's doing in that community. And just as I see this, my own personal situation, I bought my first home from a landlord who was an attorney. That house was in a neighborhood called Kinsdale, Western Springs, Willowbrook area. I used to dream about that neighborhood as a kid. It was a safe neighborhood as a kid. I used to compete in those schools when I was a kid. It was the good schools, best schools, safe streets versus where I was in Morton High School, Morton East and West. I prefer to be in the suburbs like these areas I'm talking about. It's safer streets, better schools, better facilities, better talent. Place I went to rent to own is a place I wanted to have my kids grow up. Now, I didn't rush it. I didn't stretch myself thin. I made a bunch of money, saved a bunch of money, so therefore I could put a down payment on this rent-to-own option when I presented this deal to the attorney who owned this property. So I positioned myself. And that's what most people miss. So here's some actionable steps. Number one, if you're going to rent with intention. If you're renting right now, ask yourself this question. Is my rent buying me time or is it just wasting my time? Because here's what intentional renting looks like. You know how long you're going to rent. It's not an indefinite thing. In addition to that, you're saving the difference. You're saving aggressively the difference from owning to renting. You're saving it for a future down payment. Meanwhile, you're improving your credit and you're increasing your skill set to increase your cash flow. And you're not upgrading your lifestyle just because you can. If you can't answer why you're renting, folks, you're just drifting. Second thing, you got to create some skin in the game. You got to have a dog in the hunt. Ownership isn't binary. It's a spectrum. You can build skin in the game by doing a few things. Number one, treat your rental life like you own it. Like I go back to your landlord right now. Listen, if I have a house or a condo, let me talk to my landlord and let me put a proposal that I want to rent to own this thing. Meanwhile, you treat this rental home like you own it. Again, you're training yourself into a stewardship responsibility. Meanwhile, you're building reserves. You're learning how depreciation and taxes actually work once you are a homeowner. You run the numbers. You don't run your emotions. Because stewards don't want to own, they don't wait to own, they act responsible right now. Third thing, buying a house should never be an emotional flex. Again, ask yourself these questions. Can I still breathe if rates move? Can I still save if I have to fix my HVAC or my plumbing or my water pipes, etc.? By the way, when we bought this house, a bunch of stuff went wrong. Now, does this improve my options or does it reduce them? We moved in here, a whole nother conversation of neighbors and networking and who's who came into the moment I moved into this house. Proverbs 21 chapter 5 says this, the plans of the diligent lead surely to abundance. But here's the thing though, diligence does not get rich quick. Diligence is slow, but it's safe. Actionable step number 4 for you guys to consider. Here's a rule I live by. If you can't manage it small, you can't manage it big. Because when you're looking at your business, right? If you're in a situation, if you're late on rent, you're careless with your maintenance, you're sloppy with your cash flow, ownership ain't gonna fix that. For example, just this last month, my wife and I, we just finished our 7-year lease in our office in Oak Brook because we moved here 4 years ago. But before then, 3 years before that, we signed a 7-year lease to our office in Oak Brook as we grew our business in Oak Brook. Many of you know, 2021 moved down here in the midst of the pandemic to Dallas, Texas. But I had an obligation, a 7-year lease of renting an office space, 12,000, 15,000 square feet in my office, where we built multi-millionaires out of. Guess what? The last 6-9 months, it's been vacant. We've been paying that $26,000 a month because we said on the lease, we obligated to pay ourselves for 7 years. Just this last December, we're done paying it. We didn't own the property. It was our word. You see, people today, you know what they don't do? They don't honor their word. They don't honor the obligations that they sign up for. There's a big problem in America. And when you come through with your word, there's rarely any consequences for a lot of people. Yeah, you put on your credit report. Yeah, you get a late penalty fee. But it's not really consequences that hurt. See, when you look at this, ownership will reward discipline. At the same time, too, as well, lack of taking ownership will punish chaos. And so this is why so many people want government help. Because ownership requires patience, it requires discipline, it requires delayed gratification, and those are skills, not just motivational quotes or slogans. And so whether you're renting or owning right now, here's our question. Are your decisions increasing your options or your decisions shrinking them? Because freedom isn't a title, it's a position. And let me take a pause right here. If you're the kind of person who wants real conversations around faith, around money, around leadership, around legacy, we're not in a hypey type of situation, I want to personally invite you to my next Cigars, Wealth, and Whiskey event coming up here in Frisco, Texas, February 12th, 2026. Now, this is not a seminar. This is a table. This is an upscale mastermind networking event, and I'll be doing an interview on the global strategy director for the Texas Stock Exchange, Jeff Karcher. And we're going to be talking about leadership. We're talking about capital. We're talking about the future of the stock market and what this Texas Stock Exchange is going to do right here to the economy of the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And if you're building something serious and you want to be in rooms that sharpen you, this event is for you. Go to my Cigars, Wealth, and Whiskey. The details are there. Get your early bird tickets right now. Tickets are going up here in the next week or two. Make sure you get your early bird tickets from $147 to get in the room, $997 to have a private dinner and an evening with me, with our VIPs and other elite circle members there too as well at the Cigars, Wealth, and Whiskey event. February 12th here in the next, 30 days? It's coming up here pretty soon. Get your tickets today. All right. Now, this next clip, I want to make sure I preface this clip. I want to be very, very clear. This is not whether you're about Trump or not, whether you're a conservative, you're liberal, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat. This clip we're about to watch is purely framed around debt pressure, around discipline or lack thereof, and dependence. Because when people are drowning, people are underwater, and they hear things like this sounds like a rescue. Let's take a look at this clip. Let's see. There's a sound.
In violation of the law. Well, then they're in violation of the law. Very severe things. No, I want a cap on credit card interest rates because some of them are 28, almost 30%, and that the people don't know they're paying 30%. The people out there, they're working and they have no idea that they're paying 30%. No way. We're putting a 1-year cap at 10%. And that's it. They know it. They've really abused the public. The credit card companies have totally abused it. I'm not going to let it happen. Well, then they.
Okay. Well, this hits because people are hurting. When you're 25, 28, 30% interest rates. And by the way, Trump, I appreciate you. But people know they have a 25, 30% credit card. They just didn't want to read the black and white. But when you hear 25, 20, 30% interest rate, yeah, many of you and I feel anger, and that's valid. But here's the uncomfortable truth. High interest rates don't trap people, man. Uncontrolled spending does. Having a high interest rate just exposes it. But let me ask you a question nobody is asking out loud. Why do we need a president to protect us from credit cards? If your financial peace depends on who's in the White House, you don't have a policy problem. You've got a control problem, a financial control problem, a relationship problem with money. The Bible already warned us in Proverbs chapter 22, verse 7, that the borrower is slave to the lender. The moment you decide to borrow from somebody, you're enslaved to them until you pay it back. See, that verse doesn't blame lenders. It warns those who are borrowing. Now, here's a few things to consider taking steps on. Number one, if you're carrying credit card balances, here's step one. Freeze the behavior before you fight the balance. Stop the spending habit. That means you got to stop adding new charges. Once you pay off the credit card balance, stop adding new charges. Matter of fact, we had a strategy. You put a credit card in a cup of coffee like this, right? So you can't see through it. And you put this cup of coffee in the freezer. And the moment you have a desire to use that credit card again because you're invoking self-discipline, you take this cup of coffee, you lay it out, let it thaw until you get access to your credit card again. Maybe it might take 8, 10, 12 hours to do so. But maybe that desire to buy something with a credit card goes away. Here's another way to do it. remove credit cards from your Apple Pay and Google Pay and online accounts. Because right now it's so easy. In this device, it's so easy to find ways for banks or merchants, for people to take money from your bank account through your phone. Here's a flip side. Here's a flip side to this question. If it's so easy to take money from your cell phone, how many apps do you have on your phone that puts money in your bank account? Huh? So you got to stop financing your lifestyle. You got to stop financing your lifestyle gap. You can't keep up with the Jones and keep putting on a credit card. You cannot out-negotiate a habit that you refuse to control and confront. If you got a spending issue, that's the bigger issue. It's not Trump coming to the rescue. It's not a Democrat coming to the rescue. It doesn't matter what goes on in the White House. It matters most what goes on in your house. Second thing, most people don't even know what they owe. So here's your assignment. Use these apps. By the way, this is not sponsored by it. Use these apps like Rocket Pay. Use these apps like Intuit. We can gather your bank accounts, your credit card accounts under one app. So therefore, you can see every card. You can list every card. You can see every card. You can see every balance in a snapshot. You see the APR. You see the interest rate. You see the minimum payment due. Until you face the number or the numbers control you. Because clarity, all things, clarity always precedes freedom. Third thing you ought to do. And there's two clean options to do this. It's called the debt snowball method. It means you find the smallest balance first, you line up all your credit cards, you reduce all the payments to the other credit cards down to the minimum payment, and that difference, you focus on paying off the one with the smallest balance first. Why? Because it creates the greatest amount of confidence. When, if, like, for example, you got 4, 5, 10 credit cards, you start paying off number 10, you start paying off number 9, they're paying out, even though mathematically or interest rate wise, you might be paying a little bit more interest by doing so, but emotionally, guess what? You see them get knocked off. Boom, boom, boom. Bowling pins just been knocked out. Boom, boom. The other way to do it, instead of the snowball method, is the avalanche method, which means you focus all the different credit cards to the minimum and you find the credit card with the highest interest rate first. You focus all those payments, the difference into that high interest rate credit card. But pick one. Pick one, commit to it, stop adding to the credit card balance. Over all the noise, because freedom doesn't come from motivation, doesn't come from a president, it comes from consistency. Fourth thing to consider, something you ought to consider doing. If you're very tight every month, stop reaching for another credit card. What you should do is go through your app right here, right on your iPhone. Go under your iCloud, and under this app here, you see subscriptions. Go under subscriptions, see how many subscriptions you've signed up for. Go to Amazon Prime, see how many HBOs or Paramounts or Showtime subscriptions you subscribe to because you wanted to watch this one horror movie at one point and you forgot that's on now in a monthly subscription timer. How do I know? Because I did that before. But anyway, cut those subscriptions ruthlessly. Those are small little drains that take away from your cash flow every month. So therefore, you can redirect that money back to things that pay off your credit cards. Here's another thing too as well. Sell unused assets. Don't wait for spring cleaning. Go right now to your attic, go to your garage, and find a junk that you don't use anymore. Sell them. Matter of fact, I had Darian here. We had a teleprompter here that we got the bigger model, which you're using right now, but we took the smaller one. So listen, we upgraded to the bigger one. Let's sell the smaller one. Well, what did the smaller one, like $250, but we sold it for like $180. So we kind of got like our money back. I split with Darian. So therefore, he's got an incentive to go out and sell it. Okay, listen, you're around me. We make bread together. Sell these things that just collect dust. For example, I sold my first event. I'm dating myself. I'm laughing. That's why I'm laughing. I sold my PS1. I was a master at Tekken. And I love that game. But I sold it. Why? Because I'm not going to be a professional gamer. I got locked into Tekken. Liu Kang. Or was that Tekken or was that Mortal Kombat? It's Mortal Kombat, right? And then who's that? That was Raiden. Back, forward, punch kick. All right? That was a special move. Sold all this stuff doesn't bring me money. And I had to redirect found money to principal, found money to savings and investment, found money to actually buying the insurance that I actually need. Because small leaks eventually sink big ships. Okay, fifth thing you ought to consider. Okay, let me say this clearly. Debt is not shame, but debt is math. If interest is crushing you and negotiation is required, and you get on a horn with somebody, there are legal, ethical solutions like mediation, like settlement, that help people regain control without any judgment. But the judgment is not facing a problem. The judgment is a good pat on the back by you facing it, because ignoring the problem is the most expensive option. How do I know? That's what I used to do. Bills used to come in, pump, I just pile them up. Eventually it takes care of itself. No, it won't take care of itself. It gets worse. Other thing, sixth thing you should consider doing. But this is a rule I live by. I know revolving debt rule. This is a rule I live by. If I can't pay it off monthly, then I can't afford it. If I know in my heart of hearts, I'm not going to pay this off in the next 30 days before the commissions or the paycheck cycle is done, I'm not buying it. It's my mental checklist. Because credit cards should be tools, not crutches. In fact, I'll give you an example. Just yesterday, we had delivered to the office a $1,800 piece of equipment called a LCD floor banner. Now, I didn't pay out of pocket for it. I used all my membership points from American Express card because of all the travel and the hotels, rental cars I've had during the Keep the Keys book tour. They add up to about X amount of cash. I took that cash, the membership award point from booking hotels, flights, and rental cars. And yesterday we bought in our office, we replaced our paper floor stand to promote our events, to promote our books, to promote our guys. And we replaced that with an LCD. It was an $1,800 piece of equipment. We now have an LCD screen that gives a different element of professionalism and shock and awe when people come into our office. That's going to make me money. So credit cards are tools, not crutches. Because when you stop revolving balances, and by the way, that's what I love about American Express, it forces you to pay it off in 30 days. It's a cash top of a card, not a credit card. Because when you have to pay interest, you lose power. And if you pay off these balances and you stop paying this interest, guess what starts to drop? Stress. Guess what starts to increase? Options. And that's real relief. Now, as we zoom out, this whole scenario, what President Trump is doing, my concern is this. If a president can cap credit card interest rates by just simply having a decree, by having a tweet, put it out there in Truth Social, what else can future presidents cap? What else can they say from a press conference that everybody in America has to bow down and listen to? I don't know if I like that. What happens if he caps auto loans? What happens if he caps mortgages? What happens if he caps insurance pricing? What happens if he caps certain industries? I don't know if I like that. Because markets don't respond to uncertainty with generosity. What they do is they pull access, which means what I suspect is going to happen. Well, here's what the bank's going to do. The banks are going to pull a lot of credit card options and issue just fewer credit cards. Instead of having big balance accounts, they're going to have lower limits. And I suspect they're also going to have higher fees. Put my record, see how this ages. And this is going to affect those, especially for the very people this is supposed to help. For those you're trying to establish credit, trying to get credit, this is going to hinder many of you looking to obtain and build credit. So this is why I teach people, don't wait for relief. You got to build resilience because no politician can save you from a lack of discipline. But discipline can protect you under any administration. And so whether rates get capped or not, here's a real question. If interest rates drop tomorrow, hello, awesome thing, right? Would your behavior change? Huh? Now, if the answer is no, then the problem isn't the interest rate. It's the relationship you have with money. Now, I want to encourage you guys. There's a firm that we use called Mediator Debt Solutions. If you have issues with debt, you want to find ways to have somebody advocate on your behalf to eliminate your debt. You got to suck it up for a minute, right? But to eliminate your debt, go to this QR code, Mediator Debt Solutions. There's a firm there. It's going to help you out, create a budget. They're going to start negotiating on behalf how to eventually eliminate your debt. So therefore, this time next year, January 2027, you have a much different financial picture. Remember, you didn't get into debt overnight. You're not going to get out of debt either overnight. But this is a step in the right direction. You don't have to file bankruptcy. Find out which solutions are with unsecured credit card debt, medical debt, collections, contact mediator. That solutions here, QR code here. Go to the website, fill out the form. Somebody will be in contact with you ASAP. Now, before we close this episode, I want to review this article. I want to slow this all the way down and let's do a little bit of reading together. Because the last point isn't about government. It's not about interest rates. It's not about the economy. It's about urgency. Here's why. Let's take a look at this article. Okay. So a whopping 8.9 million Americans, okay, are working multiple jobs. Why? 8.9 million Americans are working multiple jobs. The biggest number recorded in history. Not because they're lazy, but because they're under pressure. But here's the truth nobody wants to say. Busyness without direction is one of the most dangerous places a person can live. I'll give you a real direct story from just last night. This realtor I was on the phone with last night, he sold 3 homes last year. Just 3 homes. Meanwhile, he's burning through his savings. Just so you guys know, if you just sell 3 homes in 1 year as a realtor, it's not making a living at all. And he's still undecided about what he's about to go. What's his next move? And I sense from his voice, no urgency. I sense from his voice, no clarity. I'm just doing research, he says. He's in a position of procrastination, but here's the part that kind of shook me. I asked him how old you are. I asked him, do you have a wife and kids? He goes, oh, absolutely. I'm 55 years old. What? He's busy, but he's not building. He's moving, but he's not advancing. Let's take a look at this article. When you look at this article, okay, okay, where'd it go? Forward, okay. Back up here. All right. Is there a way that I could just see if we can move it here? All right. So it says here, you might assume this trend primarily affects workers without college degrees, but the data tells a different story. According to an analysis from the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis, the percentage of people holding multiple jobs with a college degree has steadily increased to 50.2% in 2024, up from 45% in 2019. This phenomenon is of overemployment is reshaping how Americans approach their careers and financial security. Okay. Here's a financial pressure. Despite having full-time employment, many workers still find a single paycheck insufficient to meet their needs. The latest consumer price index report showed the prices for essentials like food, shelter, and energy rose 2.8% in February compared to that of the previous year. The financial squeeze becomes evident when you factor in stagnant wages that haven't kept pace with inflation, particularly for housing costs. Okay. Credential inflation, because a lot of people today have credentials. The job market has become increasingly competitive. More Americans obtain college degrees. The percentage of college graduates had nearly doubled. This credential inflation means you're competing with more highly educated candidates for positions. They may not offer the salary growth needed to keep pace with living expenses. Look, I see this very clearly every day because at our office, we have Uber drivers and Lyft drivers, dropper offers, and Uber Eats people dropping off food, college degrees, master's degrees, PhD. I see it every day. I know many of you do too as well. The side hustle economy. The gig economy has significantly lowered the barriers to working multiple jobs. Speaking of Uber and Fiverr and Airbnb have made side hustles widely accessible. Also, with the rise of remote work, commutes are no longer an issue, making it easier to juggle multiple jobs. This trend includes 2 main groups: those taking on actual work due to financial need, and side hustles aiming to speed up their financial goals or explore entrepreneurial interests. Okay, here's an area that caught me. Be realistic about financial gains. The Federal Reserve shows multiple job holders earn only about $1,000 more annually than single job workers. So carefully calculate whether the added stress and time commitment justifies the modest financial benefit. If necessary, explore higher paying options that maximize your return on time invested. So this is a big reason why this coming next couple of weeks, I'm launching a webinar. I'm hosting on why it's incumbent upon you to find legal and ethical ways to minimize what you pay in income taxes and increase your cash flow. And do you think that's a very important thing to do today? You think the government right now is doing a good job of being stewards of our tax dollars in our public coffers by maximizing return for Americans and minimizing fraud? You see it in the news right now. I don't have to mention it. You know what's going on in Minnesota. You know what's going on in the rest of the country. Fraud, fraud, fraud on our tax dollars. So I'm encouraging you to stay posted to a video we're launching here. We're shooting it tomorrow. And we're going to have a webinar here in the next couple of weeks of how you can legally, ethically minimize what you pay in taxes, increase your cash flow, so therefore you put more money in your pocket, and you feel better about it because the government is doing a horrible job making sure they're stewards over the public money and not watching out where that money goes. And so the Bible is honest about this. Sadly enough, Matthew chapter 26, verse 11, the poor you will always have with you. In other words, there's always going to be rich and poor. You always have poor. Is it because of lack of opportunity? No, because of lack of mindset and perception of what money can do for you. See, that verse isn't cruel. That verse is very descriptive. It tells us this, that there'll always be people who work hard, but they never take responsibility for the direction. They don't take responsibility over their discipline. They don't take responsibility for their stewardship responsibilities. Because poverty isn't just about income. It's about decisions. It's about decisions of delay. And those delays are too long. So here's some things to consider doing. Number one, this is the big one. Most people are exhausted not because they're doing too much, but because they don't know why they're doing anything. They don't have a clear target what their career is going to look like. They don't have a defined outcome what their business is going to look like. They have no deadline. Look, we're already 13, 14 days in the brand new year. How many people do you think have already fallen off their New Year's resolutions? Because they don't have a deadline. They don't have an accountability partner. But they stay busy. They stay busy to do what? To avoid making clear decisions. So let me say this very plainly. If you don't choose your priorities, life will choose them for you. And life, it's ruthless. Ask yourself, what am I actually building? I can't tell how often I'm on the phone with people. Yeah, I'd like to come to the workshop. I'd like to come and get my finances squared away, but I'm busy. After the holiday, oh yeah? What are you actually building? What does winning look like to you in the next 3 to 5 years? What outcome am I aiming at? What are you aiming at? Not just active. Because busyness without vision is how people wake up at 60 years old with no savings, no margin, no liquidity, no options. And guess what happens at 60? A lot of your friends and family have most likely passed away. So there's less people for you to lean on, encourage you. Step 2, you better pay attention to this one. It's ruthless too as well, because time is not neutral. Urgency is not panic. Urgency is respect for time. You don't get extra decades for being almost ready. I'm almost ready. I'll be there. You don't get extra time for that. Because at some point, doing your research and just simply praying about it without acting upon it becomes procrastination. And procrastination is just fear wearing a smarter outfit. The Bible says in Psalms chapter 90, verse 12, teach us to number our days that we may gain the heart of wisdom. Where does wisdom come from? Wisdom comes when you realize that time is passing you by, whether you decide to or not. Because inaction or action is still a decision. And delay has a cost. You see, urgency isn't stress. Urgency is clarity. Because once you're clear about where you want to go, bam, hit the gas. Last but not least, here's the final step. Hard work without structure leads to burnout. What are you working hard for? At the same time, too, as well, hard work in the wrong industry doesn't pay. You'll find that out. I learned that in the military. Hard work for Uncle Sam, taking a bullet for this country, wasn't paying me nothing. And multiple jobs without a plan is just simply trading time for more dollars, less dollars, more your time, and that eventually is going to lead to burnout and exhaustion. But structure means you know where your time and money is going. Structure means that you're reducing friction with debt, with chaos, reducing friction with inefficiencies in your life, reducing friction with building margin before chasing more income. Freedom doesn't come from doing more. Just because you're doing more doesn't mean you're free. It comes from organizing what you already do. The Bible says this in Proverbs chapter 21, verse 5. The plans of the diligent lead surely to abundance. Yes, plans, not just hustle. So this is why rate caps, thank you, Trump, but don't really need it, Trump. Why rate caps don't save people. This is why just simply hustle culture burns people out. This is why government relief can't replace personal responsibility, because freedom requires priorities, requires urgency, and requires structure. So let me leave you with this question. Are you busy, or are you building something that will still matter 10 years from now? Because life moves fast, man. Blink, blink, you're there. And the scariest place to be is active, but you're aimless. Now, if this episode is hitting you, I want to invite you to take the next steps. The Keep the Keys book tour stops in Orlando, Florida. If you're out there in Sancha, Florida, I'll be out there this Thursday, 7 p.m., hosted by Evan and Megan and Antoine and Daye. I'll be out there in Orlando. And this Keep the Keys book tour, this is about protecting your income. It's about protecting your equity and protecting your options. And scan the QR code there for future tour dates and cities, keepthekeysbook.com. Also, I got 2 free tools there, to keep the Clarity Scorecard and the Clarity Worksheet to help you figure out where you're at right now. Again, so you have clarity. I look forward to meeting you in person if you can make it out there to Orlando, Florida. At the same time, I think at the end of January, I'll be in Phoenix, Arizona. Off the top of my head, on February 5th, I'll be in Charlotte, North Carolina. So the Keep the Keys book tour is still on the move. So let me bring this home. We talked about freedom. We talked about ownership. We talked about government intervention. I appreciate you, President Trump. Don't really need it, President Trump. And we held up a mirror. And here's the truth. No government program can outsave bad habits. No president can rescue a lack of discipline. And no amount of hustle can replace good stewardship. Because freedom doesn't come from headlines, man. It comes from your decisions. And those decisions are made daily. Those decisions are made quietly. Those decisions are made consistently. And if you're vibing with this, please drop this in the comments. Answer this question. What's the one area of finances you're taking control of this year? Is it income? Is it debt? Is it control? Is it retirement security? Put it in the comment section below. Meanwhile, hit like if this Millionaire Responds episode helped you and helped you think differently. If you haven't done so yet, please subscribe to the 7 Figure Squad YouTube channel if you want more conversations like this. And I'll see you here this next Sunday here for the next episode of Faith and Finance and the Keep the Keys type of themes here on the 7 Figure Squad YouTube channel. So from Dallas, Texas, I'm your money smart guy. God bless you guys. Until we meet again. Continue to live smart, continue to love smart, and be money smart today. Take control.